far more important at this particular moment in time. And usually when these dicey subjects come about, you got people that really, really want to run from them. You ain't got to worry about that here. That's not my style. That's not who I am. And if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, I'm going to address it. As long as it's in my lane. As long as it's in my lane, I'm going to address it. Plain and simple. And this whole Daryl Morey controversy, the general manager for the Houston Rockets, that went on Twitter a few days ago and caused an international stir by simply saying fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong, thereby alienating the Chinese government, has caused, excuse me, it's caused a major uproar. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. Immediately following that tweet, Houston Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta came out and said Daryl Morey does not speak for the Houston Rockets organization. We are not a political organization. Okay? He does not speak for us. He spoke for himself as an individual. Adam Silver obviously had a few things to say. And before I get into really dissecting what he had to say and telling you the essential fallout from everything else, let's first hear from Adam Silver, who had a press conference at 5:30 a.m. this morning, our time, obviously talking about this issue. And let's go to what the commissioner of the National Basketball Association had to say about supporting principles. Listen to this.
Our partners who are upset. And I don't think it's inconsistent on one hand to be sympathetic to them and at the same time stand by our principles.
Adam Silver continued by talking about smoothing things over. Listen to this.
I can meet with the appropriate officials and discuss where we stand. And again, put those remarks from Daryl Morey and my remarks in an appropriate context of a many decades-long relationship and see if we can find mutual respect for each other's political systems and beliefs. But I'm a realist as well, and I recognize that this issue may not die down so quickly.
What about the NBA and its future with China? Listen to Adam Silver speak on that.
We have no plans to cancel any other events, but
that sound cut out, my apologies. Listen, I've taken a position, and obviously there are people out there that are now attacking me. Let me say, first of all, I don't give a damn. Don't mean nothing to me. Keep it coming. Just spell my name right. It's with a PH, not a V. Stephen, just do it right, okay? Let's get that out the way. Because here's the reality of the situation. I'm sick and tired of folks not acting like they don't understand what the hell's going on. And I'm going to say something that nobody else has said. I'm particularly offended by Senator Ted Cruz, who was going after the NBA, it seemed, in his defense of Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey is a good man. Daryl Morey is an exceptional executive. I don't want him to lose his job. I'm not hoping he loses his job or anything like that. You're not getting that from me. That's not what I'm saying here. And I'm not getting into Daryl Morey being wrong. Because I no American citizen would sit up there and say somebody's wrong for stating stand up, fight for freedom. What American citizen do you know that would be opposed to such words? That's ridiculous. Of course, no one in this country, does nor should have a problem with what Daryl Morey said. It's him saying it. And if you're Senator Ted Cruz, or anybody else for that matter, and I respect Senator Cruz, the fact of the matter is, You do that every day, so does everybody else. As the strongest nation in the God's green earth, we do business with everybody. You don't agree with their stances. You don't agree with their position. You certainly don't share their values. It doesn't stop you from conducting business, and it doesn't stop you from muzzling yourself when you need to be in the interest of what's best for this nation. We'll dial it back a little bit, isolate it, minimize it significantly. And you ain't talking about the nation, you talking about a team. You ain't talking about the nation, you talking about the NBA. You ain't talking about the nation, you talking about the Houston Rockets. If you are the Houston Rockets, owned by Tillman Fertitta, who just spent $2 billion purchasing the franchise 3 years ago, and you have a relationship with China that spans 20 years, facilitated even more so by the existence of Yao Ming on your roster, meaning the Houston Rockets roster. And now he's the president of the Chinese Basketball Association. And the NBA has been doing business for years with China. Individual star athletes had made millions upon millions of dollars doing business with China. You didn't know that they didn't share your values at that time? Of course you did. But in the interest of business, you found common ground in some respects to conduct business. And as a result of that, you moved forward. You didn't bite your tongue along the way. You didn't refrain about speaking against some atrocities that may have existed. Who didn't do that? No politician's done that. No executive has done that. No owner has done that. Of course they did. And you're Daryl Morey. You don't know better? You don't know better? Really? And then you got a bunch of idiots out here that are of the mindset, oh, just say it with your chest, say what you want to say what you feel, say what's right, what's right, what's right. There's something wrong everywhere, every day. Not only does everyone not get to speak on everything, everyone doesn't get to speak on most things when there's other interests to consider. Daryl Morey represents the Houston Rockets. Nobody's saying his heart was in the wrong place. Nobody's saying he was wrong. Nobody's excoriating him as a human being or anything like that. What you're saying is as the executive of the Houston Rockets and a conduit for the NBA, you got to be mindful of that. And there's certain issues that you have to know to avoid. Actors and actresses avoid certain issues. Musicians avoid certain issues. Politicians avoid certain issues. Corporate executives avoid certain issues. Why are we acting like we don't know? Why are we acting like this is such an aberration? This is what's so appalling. And these folks out here that'll encourage you to do it, they want you to go out there and do whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, in the interest of what's right and blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, why you got your hand out for somebody's money. These are oppressors. And anybody who enables them is an oppressor. But can I have some of your money? Really? How'd that work? How does that work? Have we forgotten that you have to do certain things? I can take a sports analogy and use it right now. Do y'all remember when Donald Sterling got exiled from the NBA? It was a few days that passed by before Adam Silver announced that Donald Sterling would be banned for life. What happened during that time? LeBron James tweeted and ultimately spoke to the media and said, there's no place in our league for that. Did we condemn Chris Paul? We didn't hear anything from Chris Paul at that time. You know why we didn't condemn Chris Paul? Because Chris Paul was working behind the scenes to make that happen. That's why. along with a plethora of people associated with the NBA, the league office, the Players Association, and the Clippers organization. Everybody ain't got to stand out front and center and stick out their chest and give a quote. And you're Daryl Morey, and you're an executive for the Houston Rockets, and you don't know? Fight for freedom? Stand with Hong Kong? You express yourself in less than 20 words. Was that really necessary? You got it in with Yao Ming. You doing business with China. You could go over there and facilitate a lot of different things. But he chose not to do that. So what's the fallout? We got the NBA doing business with China. We got games being either canceled or not aired and disseminated to the masses. We've got the NBA answering questions about whether or not they're going to continue to do business with China in the future. We're talking about the potential of billions of dollars being lost, thousands of jobs being lost because of a tweet of less than 20 words. Does Daryl Morey feel any differently than Adam Silver? How about former Commissioner David Stern? How about the plethora of individuals representing the NBA brand that does business with China, that tries to wield levels of influence? How about Ted Cruz and other politicians on Capitol Hill? Long before there was some supposed trade war that's going on between our two nations, last time I checked, the United States and China been doing business for years. How is it that we don't understand that? How is it that all of a sudden we have to ignore the obligation of putting on our big boy pants and thinking about somebody beyond ourselves, thinking about the greater whole, and understanding that even though something may be wrong and something needs to be addressed and something needs to be talked about, it's about the right people, the right place, the right time. Organizing, orchestrating, and executing. That is what leads to success. How about that thought? You know, this morning, I was on my show First Take on ESPN. Airs every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon. And we were talking about this very, very subject, myself, Max Kellerman, and Molly Kiram. And we got into it a little bit. And admittedly so, it appeared as if we was getting a little bit off the rails. And so we got to be more responsible and direct moving forward. There's no doubt about that. But I'll harbor the guilt of that. Because one of the things I brought up Rosa Parks. You know, wouldn't give up a seat on the bus. I brought up the march from Selma to Montgomery. I brought up Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I wasn't talking about politics. I wasn't getting into the weeds of those things. I'm unqualified. At least in the last part, the Israeli-Palestinian. You'll never hear me talk about that. I don't know it. I know what I read, but I ain't qualified to have a discussion about it. Not like that. I only brought it up for one reason. I've seen Jewish folks speaking on Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. I've seen presidents speaking on it. I've seen Secretary of States like Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Rodham Clinton speak on those issues. I ain't see folks just walking around town in the streets or somebody being an executive for an NBA or NFL team and just come out of their mouth and say, I'm going to decide to speak on behalf of Israelis or Palestinians. I ain't hear that. When Rosa Parks wouldn't give up a seat on the bus, there were people that were on a bus before that. There was a reason that she was in the spotlight, because she was ideal for the moment and the circumstances. It needed to be her. In the march on Selma, it happened at a time and a place where it needed to happen to bring attention to to the insidiousness of the absence of civil rights being displayed or accorded to a minority group in this nation. Organization, orchestration, execution. You don't just go willy-nilly, particularly with a geopolitical issue. That's not how it works. Daryl Morey doesn't understand that? You sure? Maybe he didn't. Maybe that's why he deleted his tweet immediately. Maybe that's why he had to clarify thereafter. Because he realizes it wasn't worth it. Because it could be misconstrued. New owner for the Brooklyn Nets from China said it's a third rail issue. In his nation, he would know. Which is why it's not just about speaking, it's about being careful about who's speaking. Because they need to know what they're talking about. And then you need to take the collective interest of all parties involved into consideration, which is not what happened. And because that's not what happened, this is what you have. But y'all don't understand that? See, it's that kind of nonsense that's going to get a lot of people in trouble. I'm not about me. I'm about the greater whole. I got a lot of feelings about a lot of things, a lot of issues. But I don't get to speak on every damn thing I see. Certain things ain't my lane. Certain things you got to lead to the big boys. They're in a position. And certain things I can lead to me. I can bring up racism. I can bring up brutality on the part of some police officers. I can bring up being a member of a disenfranchised community because I know about it because it directly impacts me. We start going into another lane, I got to be more careful. I got to leave that to somebody else. I might instigate and provoke a topic, but I'm looking for somebody else to take the lead. Understanding that the collective interest is what matters. Chances are Daryl Morey's not going to lose his job. We hope he won't. We really hope he won't. I know I do. I don't want Daryl Morey to lose his job. He's a good man and a great executive. I don't want him to lose his job. But if you're Tillman Fertitta, who I have no doubt will stand by Daryl Morey probably to the end because he loves the guy, I got to say this. It's a tough spot. If you're Tillman Fertitta, if you're the NBA, and Adam Silver just told you he's going to meet with dignitaries in China, what if they sit up there and they start demanding action against somebody like Daryl Morey? Do you risk losing billions of dollars to protect him? It's a legitimate question. Especially when black folks across the United States of America will sit up there and look at Colin Kaepernick, who can't find a job in these United States because of a political position where he broke no laws, he violated no bylaws, and he's been blackballed from the National Football League. There are people that'll sit up there and say, we respect the fact that Daryl Morey he wasn't defiant like Colin Kaepernick was. He just made an honest mistake. You understand? He tried to distance himself from it, change course, etc. But it's still a political issue. It still caused problems. And the fears that NFL owners had, they're far more palpable and legitimate with China, with this Daryl Morey fiasco. What they gonna do, Stephen A? What they gonna do? And guess what? That part is a legitimate damn question, regardless of whether you think the issues match and mirror one another or not.